to AuthAction channel. In this video I'm going to show how to integrate authentication in Vanillajs websites. So I already have a sample application. So if you choose a Vanillajs text stack, and then you will see the GitHub example, this one, and in this example it will integrate auth to login flow in a plain HTML vanilla JavaScript. So I already cloned this repo. So this repo contains index.html on HTML file, and then on JavaScript, plain JavaScript, and then it is using auth for web API package. So if we go to the package details, so this one is a low level auth to OpenID Connect Client API for a JavaScript runtime. So Vanillajs it can be used, and then it's more famous as well. Yeah, so in order to integrate this one in a plain JavaScript, using this CDN JS delivered .NET URL. So because in plain HTML CS JavaScript you can't integrate, you can't install the dependency just like React and Angular, but here you used dependency for only for running this application locally using this white package. So that is the only dependency here, but still this is a vanilla HTML and then JavaScript. So I'm going to follow the readme documentation, and then integrate authentication in this application. So I already cloned it, and then I'm going to do the npm install. That is only going to run the install this white package that is in a dev dependency. Okay, so the npm install is done, and then I'm going to configure the AuthAction specific environment variables that is already in this in the .env file. So this is the authorization endpoint. In any AuthAction tenant you will see tenant name, region, and authAction.com/auth2/authorize its authorization endpoint. It's already mentioned in the documentation, and then there is a token endpoint auth2/token, and then there is a logout endpoint, and then you need to configure client ID and redirect URI. So this application is getting started in 5.1.7.3, and then there is a callback HTML. This will take care of the handling the code and state that's redirected after user is getting authenticated. So this is the callback HTML, and then that is used as a redirect URI, and then there is a logout redirect. This is mapped to the root domain. Okay, so now I go to the AuthAction dashboard, and then I need to configure environment variable. First is tenant domain. I copy this one, and then I need to replace. I think I need to keep the HTTPS. I only replace the domain name. Similarly for token endpoint and also logout endpoint. So if you go to the documentation, so you will see the auth2 connect endpoints. So this documentation page will show what is a token endpoint, user info, but by default you don't need to manually integrate this one. All auth2 client SDK will explore this YDC discovery document, that is OpenID configuration, and then it will find all those endpoints that is relevant for authentication, token endpoint, user endpoint, and JWKS endpoint, and so on. But here it's Vanillajs example. So we need to configure, we are using this package that we need to manually pass all these environment variables configuration. That's why we need to configure here exactly what is the token endpoint and authorized endpoint and logout endpoint. But if you are using other application like React, Angular, and then you are using any client auth to client SDK, you don't need to manually configure all these endpoints. So now I need to configure client ID, client ID, and then I will copy paste in here, and then all the environment variables is configured, but we need to make sure that our redirect URI already configured in this application. It's not, so I'm replacing that one, and also I need to configure logout URL, and then hit save, and then it's saved. Now I'm going to do run application. So so the application started in this port, and then I'm going to this page for simple demo example. That's why it's only showing some title, and then there is one button, login with auth. So I'm also need to show the network tab, how this works. So I'm clicking the login auth button, and then you will redirect to the hosted login page. And then there are other these 4 users already exist in this tenant, and then I'm going to log in with one account. Yeah, this one. I'm going to log in with the demo.example.com. Okay, the user is logged in properly, and then your application will receive this information in ID token. That's why it's shown here in the UI. If you look at the network tab, you can easily find out there is an authorized endpoint that is getting triggered based on your tenant domain, and then once user is authenticated, you will call back HTML. This is the once user is authenticated, you will redirect back to the callback URL with code and state, and then there is a token endpoint that will share client ID, code, and redirect URI, other stuff in order to get the ID token and access token in response. If we go to the applications, this auth4 web API is maintaining the logged in user state in this local storage. I think we need to check the session storage. Yeah, here it's maintaining ID token and access token. Probably it's manually persisted. Yeah, so this is how it works. If you refresh the page again and again, you'll still see the user session is maintaining, and then if you log out, it goes back to the login page, and it shows a login with the auth button. So I will go to the code and then see how it's developed. There is an index.html that does basic, that use this source auth.js. If you go inside the auth.js, it's using auth for web API package, and then it's configuring authorization endpoint, token endpoint, logout endpoint from the environment variable, and then during the login, it's passing client ID, redirect URI scopes, and then code challenge and code challenge method. This is following the proof key code exchange flow, and then during the callback, it's handling the code parameter, and then it's verifying the code, and then it's posting to the token endpoint, and then if it is token endpoint is receiving the access token and ID token, and then it's getting persisted in the session storage. In your application, you can persist wherever you want. For demo purpose, here it's shown in the session storage. Using this access token, you can call your backend APIs using this access token, and then in your backend, you also need to configure to verify or authorize the access token. So during the logout, similarly calling the logout endpoint with the necessary params, and then once it's logged out, the session details are removed from the session storage. So this is how it's implemented, and there is a two HTML. One is the base index.html that triggers login logout options, and then there is a callback HTML which handles the callback. So it's calling handle callback method to handle the code that is coming in the query param, and then exchanging with the token endpoint to get a ID token and access token. So if you have a Vanillajs application that has a lot of plain HTML, so you can use this approach to integrate OAuth to authentication using AuthAction. It's very simple and straightforward. You only need to implement this one file using OAuth for web API package, and then you can use that information in other HTML pages that can be you can easily persist user section across multiple HTML pages as well. Yeah, thanks. Happy coding.